Okay, if I'm gonna do a podcast on money mindset, I'm gonna make the people happy. We're gonna talk about money today. What exactly is it that I would want to say, or what do I feel like people are still missing? All right, let's talk about the money beliefs that will cause you not to make any. Eek. Hey, Courtney Sanders here. Welcome back to my podcast. If you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, come on over to my YouTube channel where you can see my dance moves, my terrible dance moves. I'm dancing right now. If you're listening to this, as well as my crazy facial expressions and any B-roll that we have in my life that can really speak to the point that I am trying to make. But however you get your podcast or wherever you are listening / watching in from, I think you're gonna like this. I think you're in for a good one, because anytime that I pull my audience around, particularly the podcast episodes that they like for me to make, number one is always on the subject of money, which is so interesting to me. And not just money, but money mindset. So I don't know what it is about my story or my journey, but since I've been online, since my blogging days, right? Shout out to those of you who remember my Think and Grow Chick blogging days. But since my blogging days back in like 2011, 2012, content around money mindset has always been popular. And even as I stand here now, over a decade later, it seems like nothing has changed. So I was thinking about okay, if I'm gonna do a podcast on money mindset, I'm gonna make the people happy. We're gonna talk about money today. What exactly is it that I would want to say, or what do I feel like people are still missing? And so I said, you know what? There are some money mindsets that are still holding people back, right? That are keeping people broke. Some beliefs that people have that if they believe this is actually contributing to why they are not seeing the financial success that they want, particularly in their business. But even if you're not an entrepreneur watching this, maybe you work a 9-to-5 job or whatever, maybe you're not into business per se, but if you do have financial goals and you find that you are not reaching them, perhaps some of these financial beliefs or money mindsets are at play. So you ready for them? All right, let's talk about the money beliefs that will cause you not to make any. Eek. All right, the first money belief that will hold you back will cause you not to make any, and I feel like we're gonna get controversial right up front here, but that is the belief that wanting money is bad. Ooh, yes, I'm saying that wanting money is not a bad thing. Now, hear me out, because I can already see people's fingers getting ready. They're getting ready to go ham on the keyboard. Hear me out. Wanting money is not a bad thing, but only wanting money is a bad thing. Of course, right? There is nothing wrong with wanting to increase your financial resources, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting more money in the bank, with wanting more money for whatever. Oftentimes people are like, oh no, I want more money, but only for a charity or only for these noble causes, which are great things. But there's nothing wrong with wanting more money for yourself or wanting more money for your family. Where people get in trouble and oftentimes leads them into negative entrepreneurship. And it's funny how all these principles that I'm going to be talking about actually make you a better business person. If you only want money, then yes, you have a negative mindset. And the crazy thing is only wanting money is a mindset that will keep you broke. But people have it twisted where they're like, oh no, I shouldn't want money at all. And they don't realize that this belief of not wanting money at all, not wanting to focus on it, etc., that actually as a mindset that is going to keep you broke as well. And so by way of example, I'm going to pick on my nephew here. I think about my nephew who, is an amazing young man. He's in his early, I think going into his mid-20s. And every time he comes here to Houston, Texas to hang out with myself and my husband, his uncle, obviously girls are on the brain, right? Women are on the brain. He's getting at that age where, he's looking to really settle down and to really get married. Like he's on the hunt. He is looking for a wife, right? So I think about other young men in, his station in life and his age group who have an equal obsession, right? But they only want women, right? And perhaps they, want to establish relationships with women for not so noble motives, right? Now, is it a bad thing that my nephew is very much on the prowl and, is looking for someone that he can get into a relationship with? No. There's nothing wrong with that at all, right? right? Because it's not the only thing that he wants. He doesn't only, want to get into a relationship and to get married for obvious reasons, right? He also wants to get married because he's looking to establish himself, establish his life, to have kids one day, to, get started on that journey of really, building his life with his one true love. I'm sure she's out there, and with his life partner, right? He's really big, like me, on legacy and perpetuating the family name and wanting to do things, wanting to provide for people, wanting to, take all the lessons that he's learned as he grows and, share it with, his life partner, with his wife or his future wife rather, and his future kids. So there's a lot of things tied up in that, right? But his desire as, a young man who is searching for a young woman is not a bad thing at all. It's totally healthy and totally normal for him to have that desire. However, I would say his peers who are not as, noble-minded and don't have a good head on their shoulders, his peers, I would say, veer into dangerous territory because they have a one-track mind where they only want to get into a relationship for only one thing, and those purposes are not that great, right? So it's the same thing with money. There's nothing wrong with wanting money, but there is something wrong with only wanting money. And I've really come to terms with this, even in terms of growing my team. So if you are watching this online, if you've been around for any amount of time, then you know that I am really big on building a team. I'm really big on building an international team. And over the last 2 years or so, I've been really diligent to make connections in South Africa and to grow, partially half my team is based in South Africa. And so I'm actually kind of creating a spin-off business. I've talked about it on this channel in terms of this done for you marketing service that I have. Again, it's just in beta. We're just working with some tester clients. If you want to get on the wait list for when it comes online, we'll have links below, either in the show notes or here on this YouTube channel in the description if you're interested. But I am staffing up with, people who can support me in doing a lot of the back-end work, particularly for that specific business. And so I am hiring in South Africa. And you know what? A lot of people are very eager to work with me. And I've been like, oh, wow, people are on time for their interviews, they're sending their resumes and their CVs. Like, there is an eagerness, there is a hunger. I don't doubt that they're really excited at the prospect of working with me because they want to make money, right? Like, is that a bad thing? I know that there is a unemployment issue, particularly an unemployment issue for, young people in South Africa, right? That is a chronic issue that the government's trying to solve. And, there's lots of different initiatives in order to solve that. So I do feel privileged that I'm able to, provide jobs, not just here in the US, but elsewhere abroad. But yes, the people I'm speaking with are very, very hungry for an opportunity. I know that part of the hunger for the opportunity is that they are looking to make money, right? Often, many of the people that I've been speaking with on my interviews had temporary contract jobs. So, they were hired for a particular project, and then when the project ran out, they were hired for temporary contract jobs. And so when the project ran out, there was no more work for them, and they were just basically on their own trying to figure out how to fend for themselves. So yes, they have a desire to make money, but I know that's not the only thing that they have a desire to do, right? They also have a desire to work for a company that is in alignment with their goals and with their values, that is going to allow them to grow, that is going to be long-term. They want to be a part of a team. They want to put their skills to use. That's a big thing that I've been hearing in my interviews is, a lot of the people that I have been interviewing in South Africa have very specific skill sets. They went to school for certain things. They're very, very educated in a specific arena, but they haven't really had the opportunity to put those skills that they went to school for to use because they have just been picking up contract jobs. And so they are looking for something more long-term. So yes, in addition to the salary that they're really excited about, they're also like, man, I'm really excited that I finally get to put these skills to use. But I don't begrudge them or turn my nose up at them or anyone who comes to me, wanting to work for me because they're excited about the economic prospects, right? The financial prospects, about the opportunity to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. I get that, right? And this is not just for South Africa. I've also hired new members on my sales team who are based here in the United States, and they just as hungry, okay? And they're just as excited at the prospect of making money. But again, it's not the only thing, right? They're like, I want to be a part of a company that is selling something that I really believe in. I love that you do work particularly that empowers women. I love the coaching industry. I think this is super cool. I like the product that you are selling. I like the service that you're offering. I love whatever, right? So it's the totality of all of these things. And so it's your mindset as well when it comes to money. It's not just that you want more money. It's that it can't be that you only want more money, right? But it is fine that you want more money. And here's the key reason why it is fine that you want more money and that you just need to admit that to yourself, right? It is fine that you want more money because then you get to be creative and you get to be innovative about how you are going to serve others in your quest to earn more money. As my business continues to grow, there's a variety of reasons that I want to earn more money, right? Yes, there are personal reasons. I've talked elsewhere on this podcast / YouTube channel about how I want to live overseas, or at least live part-time overseas. And I want properties that we purchase abroad because I have this dream of raising, my kids somewhat internationally, where yes, they're based in the US, but they get to see other cultures, around the world. And I think that that's just really important for, raising well-rounded children, right? But buying real estate and buying property is not free abroad, right? So I need to make more money in order to do that. There's nothing wrong with my desire to make more money, but I said to myself, okay, what's more value that I can provide in exchange of hitting that goal of making more money? And so this is where people really get it misconstrued. Oftentimes, if you're only focused on making more money, you're not focused on value, you're not focused on the other person on the other side of the transaction. And that's why only wanting more money can be really dangerous, because people who are obsessed with money, right? People who have an inordinate love for money, right? And I bring that up because I know people are going to be like, well, what about, the Bible? It says the love of money is the root of all evil, right? And that, I believe, is true, right? And in fact, when you look at that word all in the Greek, it can also mean all kinds, right? So the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil as well. Part of the reason why that is because when people love money, but they don't love people, they don't love providing value, they don't love any of the activity or the of the beneficial things that you need to do, for which making money is a byproduct. When they don't love those things, they only love the money itself. Well, then yes, it becomes the root of all kinds of evil, right? Similarly to how I was talking about my nephew, right? Imagine, young men out there, unfortunately, who don't love the women that they're looking for. They don't love the responsibility of being a leader. They don't love marriage. They don't love, being in a relationship. They don't love creating a family. They don't love doing any of these things. They just love certain activities with women, right? Separating that, right? Divorcing that from everything else that comes with it. Yeah, that's going to lead to a lot of evil behavior, right? Which is not good. And so it's similar with money. You don't want to only focus on wanting money, but there's nothing wrong with wanting money. You just want to make sure that you are very clear on what are the things that you need to do in order to generate that money. So when we get so focused on only the money, then we make that the main thing. Where really the main thing is, how can I provide value? How can I increase my skill set? How can I provide more to my fellow man? But wanting the money is often the trigger that makes you go out and want to do more, right? Me wanting more money, whether it was for purchasing real estate or wanting to even just quit my job, right? Initially, when I first started my business, part of the reason why I wanted more money was because I wanted to be able to quit my job and to pay my bills. What did I have to do? I had to become a bigger and better person. I had to figure out how I can provide more in my business, how I can reach more people, how I could hire more people to support me in that. So there are a lot of positive, beneficial things that I ended up doing in my quest to be able to earn more money. So I say that because you would be amazed at how many people are super frustrated by their financial situation. But if you ask them, do you want more money? They're like, oh, no. They're like coy about it. Like, oh, well, I don't really just want more money. I just, like it's a bad thing. And I'll leave on this point. One book that I always recommend, I've recommended this elsewhere on this podcast and on this YouTube channel, is The Secrets of Six-Figure Women by Barbara Stanny. Such a good book. And I always point that out because she went on this quest to interview high earning women. And she was amazed really to find that the women who made more actually cared about money less than the women who made less. However, they focused on it more than the women who made less, precisely so that they wouldn't have to always be worried about money. Isn't that interesting, right? So they were willing to admit, hey, money's not the most important thing. However, I know I need it, so I'm going to focus on it, and I'm going to honor and acknowledge my desire to make more money, and I'm going to do whatever is necessary to make more money so that I can be in a financial situation where I don't have to worry about money anymore. Where the women who earned less were often, again, coy, like, oh, money's not that important. I just care about, whatever. I'm not focused on the money. And because of that, they often accepted lower salaries. They didn't negotiate. They just did all these things that ultimately put them in a negative financial situation. So it's totally okay to want more money. It's just not okay to only want more money, right? Because when you want more money, you should also want to do more positive, beneficial things to your fellow man in society in order to generate more money as a byproduct. All right, and the second belief that you're going to need to let go of, which is really related to the first belief that we just talked about, is this idea that wealth is a result of wickedness, right? So how many times have you, I don't know, been out shopping, or maybe you've eaten at a nice restaurant and you notice somebody pulls up with a super fancy car and you're like, I wonder what that guy did. I wonder how many people that guy ripped off in order to be able to afford that car. We don't want to have beliefs and mindsets like this pervasive belief. And I think we get this from, movies, TV shows, etc., that, if someone is financially successful, if someone is very wealthy, then they must have done something super shady in order to be able to generate that amount of wealth. That's really not fair, right? I know, I get it, that there are people that we see in the media who are shady, right? Who make a lot of money and have done very, very bad things. Understand, though, that that is not the case for everybody. There are a lot of quiet, well-to-do people who you would never even know their names. Their names are not in newspapers. They're in maybe boring industries that you've never even heard of, but perhaps their industry or their company or whatever that they've done is instrumental in maybe you living your day-to-day life. And I'm completely making this up, but maybe a company that manufactures parts for like air conditioner units or something like that, right? Me living in Houston, Texas, I am super grateful for air conditioning units, right? And all the little parts that I don't even know what they are that go into those units. I imagine that some manufacturers of those parts, whoever owns those companies, probably made a lot of money. They're probably very wealthy. They probably live a great life. You know what? Good for them, right? Because I'm really happy that I can sit and record these videos for you, and I'm not burning up here in this Houston heat. So this is what I'm saying. We see all of these, people who scam people, and they're on the front page of the news, and we're like, oh my goodness, all wealthy people are terrible. And we forget that so much of our day-to-day life is really comfortable, and we enjoy it because of technology or solutions or just innovation made possible by entrepreneurs who we never know their name. We don't even know what it is that they've done, but they have contributed in some way that, has really supported our lives. And oftentimes they were rewarded handsomely for it by being financially successful. And so again, we just need to be mindful that wealth isn't an indication of wickedness necessarily. A person in their character is an indication of wickedness. Not everybody who is wealthy is a bad person. You have to be able to judge people based on their own character, not necessarily how much money they make. Because quiet as it's kept, I know of people who don't make a lot of money, right? Who are also really terrible people, who are really wicked people. And, the fact that they can't seem to get ahead financially is actually because of how terrible they are and how they keep trying to scam people, and they just don't get away with it, right? And so that's why they're not in the financial situation that they want to be in. And then there's other people who do get away with it, right? Who are also terrible. But that really boils down to the person, right? The wealth or the lack of wealth is not necessarily indicative of that person's character. The person's character is indicative of that person's character. So you want to make sure that you are not looking at wealthy people or looking at people who have things and automatically thinking to yourself, I wonder what scam that guy must have run in order to get that, because that's not fair. And there's plenty of quiet millionaires who have done really beneficial, amazing things that benefit all of us who, earned a lot of money to do it, and they're good people. All right, the next money belief that you've got to let go of, and I feel like I've talked about this a lot, but I really am excited to dive more in depth here, is this idea that making more money requires more time or more effort. Nothing can be further from the truth. And this was actually a mindset that held me back for a very, very long time, especially in my business. And I see a lot of new entrepreneurs, especially new female entrepreneurs, get hung up on this because they think that the big money is like, something that's like so far outside of them, I can never achieve anything like that. Therefore, I need to focus my efforts on kind of these, small activities and try to make a little bit of money from that. And then maybe over time, I will get to where I want to be financially. It is amazing to me now, especially having been an entrepreneur for several years, now being in a position where I'm starting different businesses. I am now able to identify revenue opportunities that are much, much bigger than what I initially was able to identify, simply because I know that they are out there, right? When you were first getting started, oftentimes you think that the only way you can make money is, and I'm just going to make this up, but, selling a dollar lemonade on the street, right? You talk to a 5-year-old and, oh, you want to start a business? How do you want to make money? Right? They say, well, I'm going to start a lemonade stand and I'm going to sell this lemonade for $1 and, I'm going to make a bunch of money, right? I mean, that's great for a 5-year-old, but oftentimes even as adults, we do the same thing by limiting our mindset and thinking about what is even possible for us. And so understand that oftentimes making more money requires the same amount of effort, requires the same amount of energy. It just requires that you direct it to a different arena. That is really the difference, right? I think about realtors, right? You can be a realtor that focuses on maybe just your general, residential real estate, just your typical 3 or 4 bedroom, 2 to 3 bath home. Or you can be a realtor that focuses on big commercial buildings. You could be a realtor that focuses on multifamily, on selling apartment buildings. You could be a realtor that focuses on selling things overseas. Like, there's a lot of different arenas that you can focus on where the transactions by nature are going to be bigger. And so while the activities are different, the activities are not more effort, right? I know realtors who, again, focus on just your general standard, single family properties, and they work super hard marketing themselves, seeing if they can get, their photo on the side of a bus or on a billboard in their local town or on a park bench or something. Even when you go to the grocery store, sometimes in the shopping carts, you'll even see like little placards that will have different realtors' names on it, right? They're working just as hard, knocking on just as many doors, trying to get people to want to do business with them as a realtor, right? Well, again, you take that same energy and you do it in a different context where the transactions are bigger. Again, maybe multifamily transactions or commercial real estate transactions. You haven't done more effort, you've just done different effort, but the returns are greater. And so this is what I'm saying. I don't think there's anything wrong with getting your start wherever you need to get your start. But once you've gotten your footing, start to broaden your horizons and say, if I have a desire to make more money, maybe the answer is not me doing more of what I'm doing here, right? So more transactions at this current level, but maybe I need to move to a different arena where the transactions just are bigger, right? And then I could just focus on that. In fact, I knew of someone that instead of just focusing on, selling childcare services or babysitting services in her home or kind of creating an in-home daycare, she focused on going to large corporations and seeing how she could set up childcare facilities within their buildings, right? Because they had already bought the building and they already had the space. And she said, I will operate my childcare facility inside of your, big corporate skyscraper. And it's great because your employees can then drop their kids off here while they, go upstairs at work and they know that they're in a safe environment and it's sponsored by the company. She just focused on doing that and was able to be far more successful than focusing on how she can get more parents from the neighborhood to, want to drop their kids off at her home as she did an in-home daycare. Same effort, just different effort, right? How much effort does it take to knock on doors in your neighborhood and to get parents to want to, use your childcare services? Well, it's the same amount of effort to pick up the phone and call corporations or to reach out to HR directors on LinkedIn. Like, literally, it's the same amount of effort. Like, it's not harder. It's just different. And again, you end up making more because the transactions are bigger based on the arena that you were focused on. So making more is actually not harder and it doesn't take more work. Oftentimes it takes less work and it's less difficult. It's really just about where you are focusing your efforts on. All right, the next money belief that is gonna keep you broke if you believe it is this idea that you can make money on your own, right? And here's a caveat. Technically you can, but you're gonna be limited in how much you make if you never partner with people and if you never really connect and collaborate with other individuals. In fact, I talked about this in a recent video where I talked about how a big myth that keeps entrepreneurs from hitting 7 figures in their business is this idea of being a solo entrepreneur. They're so obsessed with this whole lifestyle entrepreneur, laptop lifestyle thing that they have been sold that they're like, oh, no, I can't have any employees. I can't partner with anybody. It just needs to be me and maybe one assistant, and that's my whole business. And so I find that people think about this in any context, even if they're not entrepreneurs, right? Again, maybe they're thinking about investing or getting into real estate. They tend to focus just on themselves. Oh, I'm just going to make money on my own. I'm going to focus on finding the opportunities, and I'm going to focus on saving up enough money in order to start my business or order to invest in real estate or the stock market, they limit everything to what they personally can do, and they never expand their horizons and really collaborate with anybody else. And so technically, yes, you can make a little bit of money if you rely on yourself, but at some point you are going to hit a limit, you are going to hit a cap, and you will be really frustrated that you can't make the money that you want to make because you have this belief that you can make money solely on your own, which is really not true. And again, this kind of goes back to that first belief that I talked about in terms of it's not bad to want to make more money. Again, money is the incentive for you to be willing to do positive, beneficial things for other people in society. And so wanting to make big money is also an incentive for you to collaborate and share the wealth, right? Even in terms of me expanding my own business, I think about how many more people are now employed by me because I set out with those aspirations and said, you know what, I can't do this on my own. I think about the new businesses that I'm starting, and I'm starting them in partnership with people, right? Like literally, I'm not the 100% owner of the new businesses that I'm starting. I'm literally collaborating and sharing a piece of the pie, but I don't mind it because I understand that the pie is going to be so much bigger. So would you rather have, 100% of a $100,000 pie, or would you rather have 50% of a $10 million pie, right? Oftentimes you'll find that when you collaborate with other people, when you get in partnership, the results that you're able to achieve are not linear, but they're exponential. And that's the craziest thing that I really started to understand when I started to be serious about partnering with people and really collaborating with people in order to achieve financial goals. It was amazing to me that if one person could do this and the other person could do that, you would think that the two of them together could only do those two things. But what happens is the two of you together can end up doing like 10 times what either of you could do on your own. So it's really not a linear thing that happens, it's an exponential thing that happens. And that's where the real financial success really happens, right? Even if it's something, again, like real estate investing, you collaborating and getting in a group with people, and maybe you all go in and instead of you just focusing on buying these single family homes, maybe you all go in and you buy a 10-unit apartment building. But now, the returns that you're able to generate are so much greater than what you would have been able to do on your own if you were just focusing on your own knowledge and your own financial resources. So truly you want to partner because that's really where your financial success lies. And speaking of partnership, this leads right into the next money mindset that really holds people back, which is the belief that money is scarce, right? Meaning money is limited or there's not that much money out there, which is like so false. It just blows my mind, right? But I know that this is part of a reason why people feel like, oh, I have to do it on my own. I don't want to share with anybody, give up a percentage of my company. I would never do that. Or even, share a percentage of my sales, right? People don't even want to hire people on a commission basis because they just want to keep everything 100% to themselves. Part of the reason for that is because oftentimes we're still in this mindset that money is scarce, it's very limited, there's not much out there, which again, nothing could be further from the truth because all money is, at the end of the day, is a representation, right? So not to go on this diatribe, but if you look up the economic definition of money, it will tell you that it is a store of value. It is a representation of something real, right? So the money is not the real thing. What it represents, i.e. value, is the real thing. And so as long as human beings are on this earth continuing to create value for other people, they will print more money to represent all that value that was created. So you have to understand that money is not scarce. In fact, we have too much money, right? I know at least here in the US, there's all this focus and talk about, well, what the Fed is doing and are they going to raise interest rates again? Because inflation is so hot because there's so much money in the system. There's so much money that there are investors, there are banks, there are people looking to place their money where they can get a return. And oftentimes they will place it with you as an entrepreneur if you have, one, a really great idea, but two, a good work ethic. And so this is why it's important when you think about the previous step in terms of you can't make money on your own, not really. You want to start collaborating with people. You want to start getting in networks because you will be really surprised how seamless it is to get someone who wants to support your business. Yes, it could be financially. Maybe there's someone who's like, you know what? I've always wanted to go into that business, but I don't have time to really run this myself. How about I make this contribution? I'll have this share of ownership and, you can run the day-to-day and then we'll be partners, right? Oftentimes discussions like that literally happen like, at networking events and in restaurants and meetings and conferences. You'd be surprised if someone knows you, you have a good reputation, they've heard about you and they see what you're trying to do. There are people with money who will want to go in on whatever your idea is. But even beyond just money, again, people with resources, people with connections, it's all out there, right? And all of those things are worth value, right? There might be someone who has a property that they are willing to let you operate your business in. In fact, I think about my esthetician who told me about this strategy, and that she is able to operate out of a dentist's office, right? And she's like, my clients love it. It gives me more credibility because I'm, operating in like a medical building, a medical establishment, and I'm able to do this, and my rents are so much lower than if I had to go out and, find a building all on my own and pay all that rent all on my own. I just pay a little share to the dentist that I am operating in their business, in their space, but it brings them advertisement, and it's just a win-win for everybody. So that's an example of like the money is out there, right? And it doesn't even always mean that someone is physically going to give you money, but someone might give you a resource that is worth money. Therefore, you don't have to come out of pocket or come out of the money in the way that you thought you would need to. But part of the way that you even find out these opportunities or these resources is by connecting with other people, building your network, because it's people ultimately, and the value that we create as people, that creates the money that we are looking for. So people make the world go round, not money, right? Without people, there would be no money. So focus on connecting with other people, and you will find that there is no shortage of money. There's no shortage of resources that are valuable that other people are willing to contribute to your business or your cause. All right, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this money podcast. If you want even more money mindset topics, go ahead and leave me a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment below. If you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, just come on over to my Instagram. You can send me a DM and let me know what specific money mindset topic you would love to know more of. But if this podcast episode or YouTube video, if you're watching this, really helped you shift your mindset around money, and now you're excited to get out there and make some, and in particular, you want to do so as an online coach or industry expert, I invite you to join my signature coaching program, where you can learn how to not only get your coaching certification and how to come up with your own coaching methodology, but you will also learn my blueprint, how I personally built my business and how I've helped others do the same, my blueprint for becoming the next big name in your industry. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go ahead and click the link below this video or in the show notes if you are listening to this episode, in order to learn more about it and apply. And if accepted, you'll be invited to a call with my enrollment team, where we will walk through the entire process with you. But with that, thanks so much for listening/watching this episode. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram. It's CourtneyLSanders on Instagram. And with that, I will see you, or I guess you'll hear me, in the next one. Bye.